Hello Year 2 and welcome to our story this week, which is Katie Morag and the Wedding, and I'm going to read it for you now. Ever since the new pier had been built on the Isle of Struy, Grandma Mainland visited regularly. Katie Morag McColl was delighted to see more of her other grandmother, but most delighted of all the islanders was Neely Begg. He fancied Grandma Mainland and always looked so sad when she went away. Then he would write lots of long letters to her in the city on the mainland and wait impatiently for the mailboat to bring back a reply. This kept Mrs. McColl, the postmistress, very busy. Everyone on the island said a romance was afoot. Maybe even a wedding, whispered the ferryman's wife in between serving teas to the visitors. Pah! A wedding! I'll believe it when I see it, muttered Granny Island when she heard the gossip. Katie Morag was very excited at the thought of a wedding. It usually meant a big party. It also meant that the two people getting married wanted to live together instead of far apart. Would Grandma Mainland come to live in Neely Begg's house on the island? That would be lovely. But oh dear, what if Neely went to live with Grandma Mainland in the faraway city? If there is a wedding, would Neely Begg be our granddad? Katie Morag asked when she and Liam arrived at Granny Island's house, just in time for dinner. Her granny did not answer. Whisht! Go and sit at the table, she frowned instead. We've got two grandmothers. Why don't we have two grandfathers? Whisht! Will you sit down? Glared Granny Island. It was a long time since Katie Morag had seen such a glower in Granny Island's eye. It was time to stop asking questions. As Katie Morag pushed Liam homeward, she wondered why Granny Island was in such a bad mood. It made her feel sad. When they got to the village, Neely Begg was at his front door. He had a huge pile of stamped addressed envelopes in his arms. The invitations for the wedding, he beamed proudly. Can you take them to the post office, Katie Morag? That cheered Katie Morag up no end. Can we go? Can we go? Chorused Katie Morag and Liam when the silver and gold invitation was put on the mantelpiece. Of course, smiled Mr. and Mrs. McColl. Everyone will be going to the wedding. And the new baby? Of course. And the ferryman and his wife and the lady artist and the new teacher? Of course, laughed Mr. and Mrs. McColl. And Granny Island? Asked Katie Morag. Suddenly everything went very quiet in the McColl kitchen. Grown-ups can be very strange, thought Katie Morag. Sometimes they answer questions, and sometimes they do not. That night in bed, Katie Morag complained to Liam. If we didn't answer when we were asked questions, we would be called rude. Rude, agreed Liam. Grandma Mainland always answers questions. I'm going to write her a letter, declared Katie Morag. And this is what the letter said. I hope you notice Katie Morag's spelling's not marvellous here. Dear Grandma Mainland, we are looking forward to your wedding. Me and Liam. Granny Island is very cross. Can you find her a granddad too, please? Lots of love and kisses, Katie Morag. P.S. Liam, I think that should be hopes, you and Neely have lots of babies. The next few weeks on the island were very busy. All sorts of parcels and crates came off the boat and were carried up to Neely's house or to the village hall. Neely dieted so much Mrs. McColl had to get a needle and thread to alter his smart new suit. The ferryman's wife made a giant of a chocolate cake. She and Mr. McColl had to stand on stools to decorate it. Katie Morag and Liam made a special present for the bride and groom. The new baby lent ribbons for flags. Liam thought it was Christmas. He kept chanting, Anta Claus, and even hung up his stocking. Katie Morag waited for a reply from Grandma Mainland. The day of the wedding drew near. Grandma Mainland and all the relatives and friends were due to arrive on the boat the day before the big event. Nobody had seen Granny Island for days. All the islanders went to the pier to meet the guests arriving off the boat, but there was no sign of Grandma Mainland. Neely Begg was just about to burst into tears when a loud clattering and whirling reverberated around Village Bay. It was a helicopter, and Grandma Mainland was right in the front with the white-bearded pilot. "Santa Claus!" yelled Liam. "It isn't Santa Claus, silly," cried Katie Morag. She knew who it was. Do you think you can guess who it is? Grandad Island swung Katie Morag up in the air. "Last time I saw you, Katie Morag, you were just a sparkle in your mum and dad's eyes." Katie Morag and Liam raced Grandad Island up to the village hall to help with the decorations for the wedding party. Grandad Island asked if Granny Island was going to the wedding. "You'd better go and find out for yourself," said Grandma Mainland, somewhat sternly. Katie Morag watched Grandad Island set off on the long walk round to Granny Island's house on the other side of the bay. She worried that the fierce glare in Granny Island's eye of late would frighten him away. Katie Morag need not have worried. On the day of the wedding, nobody's eyes were glaring. Everyone's eyes were sparkling, especially the two granddads. But Granny Island's and Grandma Mainland's were the brightest and sparkliest eyes of all. Who's she dancing with now? Grandma Mainland and Neely Begg were to honeymoon on the neighbouring island of Fouet. There were no people on Fouet, only sheep, and they all belonged to Neely. "And all the lambs next spring will be yours, Mrs. Begg, my wee Bobby Dazzler." Liam was right. Grandma Mainland was going to have lots of babies to look after. But Grandma Mainland was not going to give up her flat in the city. She and Neely would commute between Struet, Fouet and the mainland, and Katie Morag could visit whenever she wanted. It took a lot of persuading to get Granny Island up in the helicopter. Granny Island did not like travelling. Grandad Island loved travelling and never stayed in one place for long. "East, west, home's best," insisted Granny Island, clinging to her seat like a limpet. Katie Morag knew then that Grandad Island would be leaving soon. "Grandad, when you go travelling, can I come too sometimes?" "Certainly, Katie Morag, anywhere in the world." Katie Morag was thrilled. She looked forward to visiting Fouet, the city on the mainland, and now anywhere in the world. But it was good to know that Granny Island would always be there on the island of Struet when she got back home. There we are. I hope you enjoyed that story, and I hope you enjoy doing the work from it this week. Bye-bye.